Hello and welcome to Ocean Steward Spotlight. Uh, First, I want to welcome everyone who's watching. Welcome to our speaker, Kemit-Amon Lewis. And just wanted to give a little bit of background about this series. We hope to highlight ocean stewards who are from diverse backgrounds, from all over, hoping to connect more ocean lovers with stories that might be important and inspiring to them in their personal development as ocean stewards themselves, and to create a welcoming atmosphere for folks to join in the ocean conservation movement. So we're joined by Kemet, and last time we tried to get together, there was an insurrection in the Capitol, and we're here now, and luckily that didn't happen today. So thanks, Kemet, for joining. Any words for checking in for how you're feeling right now?
I know this. Thanks for the invite, and yeah, I echo the sentiment that I'm happy that you know things are starting to make sense in the world, and we can actually have this conversation today.
Yeah, I'm really thankful that we could make this time to get together and chat, and I'm excited to talk to you. So I want to dive right in to getting to know you a little bit more. So can you tell us a little bit more about sort of your defining moment? What was the moment when you started to sort of fall in love with the ocean? Was there a specific time, or was it more of a gradual thing?
So it's definitely a hybrid of both. When I was younger, we didn't really do summer camps. My dad would take us, myself and all of my cousins, to Dorsch Beach on the west end of St. Croix every day during the summers from about 9 to 5, and that was our summers. There was one particular moment when we were out, my dad would always jump in and swim as far as he could, and then the young ones would try to catch him. We went out one day and folks on shore started yelling shark, and so we all looked at each other and I was like, oh. And then there was a swimmer swimming by and I was like, okay, they saw the swimmer. And then they started yelling shark again. And when we doubled back, looking back to just make sure everything was safe enough for us to actually make it back to shore, it was a dolphin. And from then I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do for a career, and make it not just a thing for recreational fun, but actually make a career out of it. From there, I went on to high school at St. Croix Central High School. It was a public high school on the island at the time, but it also had a marine science program. We had Marine Science 1 and 2, which got us scuba certified. We had a Marine Science Club. And so as a high school student, enjoying a Marine Science Club at a public high school, it's really unheard of. And it's definitely one of the things that helped me along this journey. Of course, leaving high school and going to Savannah State and being a part of that marine science program. Dr. Gilligan was my advisor as a freshman and all throughout undergraduate school. Dr. Hoskins then took me on as my graduate advisor, but all of the faculty, staff, and the joy of being a young person of color at an HBCU, and able to do all of my field work back home in the territory in the Virgin Islands was an amazing thing. And then of course, Sandy Point on St. Croix has one of the largest nests in assemblage of leatherback sea turtles in the US Caribbean. And that dolphin story made me think I was gonna study dolphins all throughout high school, all throughout college. And it was my first night on the beach with leatherbacks that changed that to sea turtles. So yeah, just that.
Yeah, I can relate to that story about seeing a dolphin fin pop up and thinking it was a shark when I was in unfamiliar waters in Australia one time. Just being like, oh my gosh, that's a shark. Definitely a shark, but it was actually a dolphin.
Yeah, and then it's different there because in the Caribbean, it's probably a reef shark. But if you see a fin in Australia, it could be a great white, it could be a tiger. It could be all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
happy for you that it was a dolphin.
Yeah, and luckily for us with the marine biology education's sort of understanding that sharks are not as dangerous as they're made out to be. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to interact with a couple sharks that are just pretty interesting creatures themselves. So that sounds like an amazing story, and like your whole life has revolved sort of crossing paths with the ocean, and it sounds like you really got involved in some really cool stuff. So I'm curious about like the journey and how your journey is sort of framed. Because at a certain point for me, like I decided that ocean conservation became sort of a mission. I sort of viewed it as the mission to stop offshore drilling. I'm curious for you, what do you approach your work with a particular mission in mind, or would you call it more of a vision? And what is that vision or mission?
I do for sure. So I think it was in undergrad, my senior year, the university sent me to Costa Rica to present my senior research project. And during that whole process of, studying, learning about sea turtles, studying biology and conservation of sea turtles, and then getting to be in this amazing arena with other sea turtle biologists and conservationists that were just super passionate about their work. Archie Carr, the name Archie Carr always popped up, and he's recognized as being the grandfather of sea turtle biology and conservation. And he once said that for most of the wild things on Earth, the future must depend on the conscience of mankind. And that's been, once I heard that in undergrad, that's been the philosophy that's kind of guided my work. It's not solely about research for discovery's sake. Yes, there's some benefit to that in the world, and that's how we know everything that we know today. But there's also value to be given to research that actually leads to conservation action. And so that's been one of the things that I've hoped to hold high in all of the career positions that I've taken on over the years. And, I think the underlying philosophy for most of my work is that we people, in the most general sense, because I try to live a life that's not as extractive and as harmful as a capitalist society would lead us to believe that we must live. But I think that if we work to reduce the anthropogenic or man-made stress while recovering critical species or improving the critical habitats that are out there, we can make a lasting impact on the resources that are so important for not just commercial and economic benefits, but also for our recreational and the spiritual value that we hold for the ocean and for everything that we enjoy about the ocean.
Yeah, it's amazing perspective, and even in our language is built in, this word resources, we can't avoid it. We talk about this all the time, and I'm reminded of the concepts of how quickly some things are getting taken away from us in our experience. We haven't even gotten a chance to learn from these other organisms yet that are some of them are disappearing, and a lot of them hold like secrets of biology. So it's beautiful that your intention is to really bring that value back and not live in such an extractive way. Yeah, so I guess we talked about some different organisms in the ocean, some different marine animals, and on the topic of valuing the ocean life that we're talking about, is there a favorite particular marine organism that you have that you either identify with or feel drawn to?
I have a lot of favorites for specific reasons, like the octopus, dolphin for how intelligent they are. Sea turtles are just, the fact that they've been around since when the dinosaurs existed is pretty amazing. in terms of their like just evolution. And um, I use the word resilience a lot, and try not to be corny about using the word resilience, but sea turtles are pretty resilient. But my favorite would probably have to be baby shark. Do 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 do. No, but sharks would definitely have to be my favorite as apex predators, that are just like you said, they get a bad rap, but they're actually amazing creatures. Without aging myself, for my 30th birthday, I'd hoped to dive in South Africa with the great whites. And unfortunately, I ended up having to work in the Bahamas. So, it wasn't all that bad. Um, but because I was forced to work on my 30th birthday weekend, they actually made sure that I got to spend some time underwater with about 30 reef sharks, just cruising around us the entire time, doing their thing, and not attacking any of us. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, there's like it's like the whole ecosystem itself of the Caribbean is kind of meant for you, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep hearing there's so much richness to what you're saying, and it's spurring on so many different questions I have for you. And you mentioned resilience just now, and I know that you have a lot of personal experiences with overcoming obstacles. Can you tell us more about what those are, and in your work, maybe just in your life, and how maybe like the work obstacles and life obstacles and overcoming these kind of relate to one another?
Right. Yeah, life is what it is. And there's no recipe or experimental procedure that says this is where you start and this is where you end. And so I think growing and learning and experiencing and learning how to adapt, and that's what the life and evolution and this planet that we call Earth and is all about. It's about adapting and finding ways to make things happen. I'm a believer in good old YOLO, and that we exist for a reason. I think people exist on this planet for a reason. And essentially we're here to make a difference. And whether it's in the marine or the ocean field, or if it's in agriculture or in law or in medicine, it's on us to find what our passion is, and to work like hell to make improvements in whatever the field is. I think there are just too many people on Earth. There are too many places to explore, and life is too amazing of a thing for anyone to want to live a basic life. So, like, if I can encourage anyone to step outside and explore and do and be, then I guess that's it.
Yeah, wow. And that really means a lot coming from you. And if you don't mind, I'd like to, bring to what's really inspiring to me is that you've made the effort to continue to be immersed in nature, and you're an amputee. And so you've faced these physical challenges that have helped, that have kind of shaped your path. And I'm just curious, for those folks out there who are facing these types of physical challenges, do you have any words of wisdom or advice?
Yeah, goes back to what I was saying earlier. Life is an amazing thing. I did not expect that I would wake up in the end of summer of 2019 with the decision that I would have to make to remove not just one, but part of all four limbs. So right hand, right foot, left fingers, and left toes were all amputated within a week of each other, after surviving a bout with sepsis that almost killed me. But I think one of the things that drives me is, notwithstanding, I was pretty driven from before. I had experienced a wealth of what this thing that's called life is, and you know, some may look at it as a second chance to do, and um, well, those can't be taken for granted, especially after the observation of last year, or the 12-month period where we've lost over 500,000 people just in the U.S. That had, you know, would have had all kinds of thoughts on what they were going to do, where they were going to travel next, what they were going to do to make the world a better place, what they were going to do with their family and loved ones, and that opportunity isn't there for them. So yeah, what I try to do is make the best of the years, days, hours that I have left on as a living being on this planet. And you know, I had struggled a little bit with the fact that I was doing a lot of sitting while I was out of work, and not really, as I was in the past, using my mind and energy to create a better environment for not just the quote unquote environment, but for us as human beings, as we coexist with many organisms, with many habitats. And I'm finally doing that again. And so it's overjoyed for the experience to continue to do and be and to live.
Yeah, something that is coming up for me right now is like, if there's ever a time for resilience, it's now. I mean, we've been through some really unprecedented times. A lot of people are experiencing a level of isolation that haven't before. And, you know, you are an amazing example of someone who just is getting back into this field again. Can you tell us about your next steps in terms of how, what's coming up for you in your professional life, and how that feels to be getting into that?
Yeah, for sure. So I, as of Monday this week, I started with the Perry Institute for Marine Science. They're an organization that has been forever focused on ocean stewardship. Most of their work is in the Bahamas, on a number of the different islands there. A lot of it related to coral reef conservation, to fisheries conservation, marine protected area work, and the efforts around that. And essentially just making the place a better environment for not just the organisms that need healthy and clean and crystal clear ocean water, but for the people that depend on all of those resources. Again, not just for the for sustenance and for commercial and economic value, but also for the cultural and spiritual value. So it's great to be a part of the group. Originally, they were very focused on assisting with research in a number of different capacities, and now they've branched out to be a larger organization doing more work with NGOs and governmental agencies on the ground in the Bahamas to make sure that resources remain healthy and life remains as it should remain into the future.
Yeah. Yeah, tying the whole conversation together and everything that we've talked about, I mean, there's sort of less, what I'm getting from this conversation is that we have a responsibility to the ocean. We have organisms in the ocean that can teach us about ourselves, can possibly teach us about resiliency. And, you know, there are times when it won't be so, when everything won't be happening exactly the way we want it to. But at that moment when it's time to sort of return to either normalcy or something better than what we've been experiencing, that's a time for gratitude, and it's a time for giving back. And again, you're a great example of someone who is devoted to this vision of helping protect and conserve the ocean. So I thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. I want to ask a question to you because you are a person of action. And so for our viewers who are maybe confused about how to get involved with the ocean conservation movement, say they feel like a particular pull to do the work, but not quite sure what steps they can take, what would you say to those viewers?
Definitely explore it to appreciate it. I grew up diving on the island of St. Croix, but I've been able to, unfortunate, most of it because of work, but some because of fun, being able to dive across the Virgin Islands, Hawaii, Greece, Cuba, Grenada, Curacao, and Bahamas, Australia, China, Colombia, Solomon Islands, Guam, Egypt. The list is pretty, a pretty awesome list. And you don't really I get to appreciate what we had on St. Croix at my home more, the more that I've been in other places, and got to like experience like Solomon Islands, for example, because of how the villages are set up and the fact that we were able to visit so many of the outlying islands. The connection that the people there have to the ocean is amazing, and it's something that I envy when I return home. But yeah, there's something beautiful about exploring different places and then being able to then appreciate and then advocate for these places to remain as beautiful as they are. I think any effort to adapt a sustainable lifestyle can be easy, and you can do that anything from the food that you eat to the waste that you accumulate to the energy that you consume. If you can start just thinking about how everything that we do will affect the elephant that's been in the room called climate change, that some people don't think exists, but the rest of the sane world has realized it's been a problem for forever. And not only is it a problem, but the rate at which it's occurring is the issue that we're dealing with right now. So just consider that, and it's everything from transportation to reducing your use of plastics, single-use plastics, to the food that we eat, making sure that they're sustainable and there's not a tax or there's not a lot of greenhouse gas emissions associated with those. With those practices.
Oh, we got the new puppy chiming in. That's so. You want to? Is your puppy trying to pop up to say hello?
Hey, well,
see it on the screen.
Shala, say hi, everyone. Say hi. Say save the reefs.
You were real loud a second ago, and now
yeah, now he's shy, camera shy.
I love what you said about appreciation for the ocean. It's like, can we really ask people to be interested in something that is so foreign, and looking at the surface of the ocean, it just looks like there's water. So, I mean, getting in there and exploring, and what that reminds me of is traveling the world and seeing just different cultural perspectives and different ecosystems, like you said, can inform about our own ecosystems, and we start to see the patterns amongst different systems around the world, and how they affect the totality of it all. And then big realization that the entire ocean is connected. So kind of an invitation for us to get connected. And
right, yeah, I think the less people know and the less they explore, the easier it is for a number of mistruths to become forefront in a lot of people's minds. The concept that we have, because the ocean is so big, there's an infinite amount of resources that cannot be depleted, I think is one of the myths that need to be debunked very early on, and in all of our messaging. And, you know, I think to that end, there needs to be a more conscious realization that a lot of the damage that exists on the ocean today, it's because of people. And so we're going to have to be the ones to, you know, make things better as much as we can.
Yeah, something that, I don't know if this resonates with you or not, but something that I like to keep at the forefront of my mind and to communicate is it's not about guilt. Even though guilt does motivate people, studies say, but it's not about guilt, it's about responsibility. And
Right.
responsibility is like, we are on this planet and we are the ones. So I love that message.
Yep.
So one more question. Well, I got a couple more questions for you, but I'm going to try to ask you to, if you can possibly briefly give us the answer to this one, because we are running out of time, unfortunately. I was just, if you could get specific about, and you kind of already did, but a little bit more specific about what your vision is for the ocean conservation community in general, and how would you like to see it grow, change, find new directions? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think even more collaboration is needed. I think we're moving into the right direction. You know, there are a number of coral conservation practitioner alliances that have popped up where people are learning from each other and not reinventing the wheel every time a new project starts. But you know, in that world, for example, you know, success will require not just restoration because it's a new and cool and sexy thing that everybody wants to do, but threat reduction, which is often the thing that is left behind because it will take more work and more behavioral change that's sometimes seem to be too heavy of a lift. But everything will have to work together. I mean, we're looking at, you know, policy, marine protected area research, restoration, fisheries, addressing land-based sorts of pollution, the whole maritime industry, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all involved in this, and the solutions are complex, but the man-made damages are complex, and so I think that's going to be key. And lastly, I think that the value of the resources extracted and or damaged should match the value of the resources given to fix the issue. Often, you know, you have these billion-dollar companies that are created into billion-dollar companies from scratch because of you know, either damage or extraction. But when there's a conservation project that's you know, a proposal is asked for, it's like, you know, $50,000, and there's a huge discrepancy in, you know, what the cost of the fix is and the amount of funding that's given to the work. So if we can get the celebrities of the world to start, you know, either connecting us or helping those projects on the ground move forward, I think we'll be in a different place in a few years.
That's amazing. Thanks for wrapping that all together. And, you know, the solutions are complex, but connection is complex. So just back to what you said, connection is such a great solution as well.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kemit. One more, can you just tell us one more time the organization that you're working with? Can you just repeat the name? I remember, but I want to repeat it for the viewers so we can kind of stay in touch with you and the important work that you're doing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm now with the Perry Institute for Marine Science, again, located in the Bahamas.
Great. Yeah, so we just popped up on the screen, perryinstitute.org.
Awesome.
And so follow Kemit's work. He's going to be involved with that team. Thank you so much for joining us. And just before we sign off, I'm going to introduce the next Ocean Steward Spotlight speaker and remind folks to join us. Our next spotlight will be on March 18th. Gaffney McLaren, she is a dedicated ocean and marine life conservationist and activist. She is the co-founder of the Chirping Bird Society, and which is a nonprofit dedicated to changing the culture of disposable plastic overuse based in South Carolina. So thanks everyone and have a good night.